Alright, so I'm gonna get everybody the rundown. I'm gonna give everybody the rundown on how to spiritually and consciously unlock yourself so that you can attain all things in this entire universe. I'm gonna give y'all step by step. There's 3 things you gotta do, right? For one, you have to unlock the pineal gland. You have to unlock the melatonin that's gonna produce the rhodopsin, and the rhodopsin is gonna connect with the optical isomers that's inside of your eyes, and it's gonna release the chemicals. Of course, it's gonna release the sacred chemicals that's gonna reawaken reawaken the replicating DNA that's inside of you. So you first have to unlock the pineal gland. The pineal gland is the first thing. You do this by looking at the sun. You look at the sun when it's highest up in the sky until you see a blue circle appear in your vision. When you see a blue circle appear in your vision, you are releasing information to your brain that corresponds with the RNA that's inside of your body and the deoxyribonucleic acid, which helps produce the adenine that's inside of your DNA, which connects with guanine, thymine, and cytosine. So you have to look at the sun until it turns blue. A lot of people may think that you're going to go blind, not if you're melanated. Melanated people do not go blind from looking at the sun. We cannot go blind from natural organic light. That's a fact that can be scientifically proven. Simply because of the carbon skeleton chain that's inside of your molecules. The carbon molecules that's inside of your body releases different forms of molecules known as macromolecules. These macromolecules, they dish out energy based off of their metabolisms. So because you have that intelligence inside of your melanin, you can't go blind from natural sunlight because the optical nerves doesn't produce the chemicals that causes the eyes to stress out and to go blind. This is the intelligence of melanin. So you have to look at the sun. Once you look at the sun when it's highest up in the sky, when you look at the sun when it's highest up in the sky, and the center of the sun is going to appear blue. Even though we all know the sun is yellow, we know that the sun is light. I would say yellow, but it is light. This light is going to appear blue in your vision. This is, every time you do this, you unlock melatonin. You're receiving all the information that calls for a seed to sprout. That information that's hidden inside of the hydrogen bonds that's in the air, that's produced by natural sunlight through photons. This information, you're gathering all the information of the entire cosmos through sunlight. You could do this through the pineal gland. You can gather all the information in the entire cosmos in an instant through the pineal gland. That's step number 1. You have to first see the blue light that's on the sun, as the sun is the highest up in the sky. Train yourself to be able to stare at the sun. That's number 1. Number 2 is taking your semen. Take your semen. For those males, it's taking your semen and planting it 6 inches in the ground up under a tree. Because this is your instant connection to nature. This is the instant connection to nature. Taking your semen and planting it 6 inches underground up under a tree, next to any tree that you can connect with. Instead of you going out in nature, instead of you going out in the wild, you're giving that tree your you're giving that tree 32 chromosomes worth of DNA. That is a direct connection. But so by taking your semen and burying it 6 inches in the ground under the tree is a direct connection to nature. This way, all things that is natural, including animals, will be able to detect you. It can detect your frequency. It can detect your higher vibration. So when you plant your semen in the ground, you take those 32 chromosomes and you're dissolving them, and you're turning them into different forms of conservative energy. Energy which becomes exothermic as the tree eats up all the cells of that energy, or eats up all the cells that's inside of those chromosomes, and the DNA that's inside of the chromosomes start to attach itself to the biological makeup of the tree. You do this through sperm. Women, you could do it with breast milk. But you could do this through sperm. Well, women, I wouldn't say you could do it with breast milk because breast milk don't carry chromosomes. But man, you could do this with your sperm because it carries 23 chromosomes. Seeing that it carries 23 chromosomes, that's genetic information that has the proper nucleotides and polypeptides and different types of phospholipids that's produced by phosphates and phosphorus. Okay, but if you take your semen and you plant your semen next to a tree 6 inches in the ground, that tree is going to consume your semen, thus consuming those 23 chromosomes. And thus you will be completely connected to the universe. And whatever you would like to manifest, since you've been downloading through photons, you've been staring at the sun and you've been downloading or you've been uploading information, your higher consciousness is your first thought. Your first thought is your purest thought. Your purest thought comes from the darkness that's inside of your body. Darkness which produces potential energy. A lot of people ask where does thoughts come from. Your thoughts come from energy, potential energy that's inside of the body, just like a baby manifests inside of the body. It comes from darkness. It comes from potential. What is potential? The ability to do work. That is what potential is. So since there's darkness, nothing but darkness inside of the body, since you have nothing but darkness inside of the body, there's nothing but potential inside of the body. That's why melanin has produced and invented all things around you. We invented civilization. We invented the plumbing system. We invented pyramids. We invented stoplights. We invented science. We invented biology. All these things come from potential energy, which corresponds with darkness. Darkness, which sits right up underneath the skin. Right up underneath your skin, there's nothing but complete darkness. This darkness is potential energy. Potential which turns into chemical energy, which then makes it metaphysical energy because you have a thermal presence. And if you look at the laws of thermodynamics, you'll see how enthalpy controls the body and how enthalpy turns energy into free energy. They call it free energy. Melanin has the constructs to tap into what's known as free energy. Free energy is energy that it could be used endlessly. Free energy is an activation that's downloaded through the body by adenosine triphosphates, right? These triphosphates turns into different types of cells, and it starts to construct cytoplasm that's inside of the cells, and eukaryotes and prokaryotes starts to form, and different types of germs and algae and things of that nature. So you have this darkness, you have this chemical energy that works on the thermal presence through metabolism. This chemical energy turns potential energy into kinetic energy. And kinetic energy then becomes the result of transformed chemical energy, right? Free energy activation is done through the mind. Activating the pineal gland is done through sunlight. It can only be done through sunlight. This is why you was instructed not to look at the sun. This is why you was taught your whole life not to look at the sun, because that blue shade, that blue coloring that you see when you stare at the sun and you're uploading the information, that blue light that you see is information that connects to the pyrimidines of your DNA, right? You can look up all these things, all these different type of scientific terms that I'm using. You can look them up biologically, right? Pyrimidines start to structure the helix that's inside of the DNA while the DNA twirls inside of the body, right? So pyrimidines and purines start to form once thymine, adenine, guanine, and cytosine gets together, and these different types of things conform. But that's not overall knowledge. That's not the knowledge of all life. You're downloading information. When you put your semen in the ground, you download information, or you're uploading information to the cosmos through trees and grass and soil. There are going to be things that are going to come along and eat your semen. It's going to come in contact with your semen. It is going to transmute information from your semen as it biologically uploads that information, and it's going to turn that information into signals, that's going to be released through dung and different types of fluids that these creatures are going to come and the different types of fluids that these creatures are going to create once they come and interact with your semen once you bury it in the ground. So this is an instant connection to the divine cosmos. This is an instant connection to nature. So once you put your semen in the ground and you've been staring at the sun and you've been downloading the blue color, the blue orb, you're unlocking the allokinetic melatonin, right? So the last thing out of those three things, first was unlocking the pineal gland. Second was putting your semen in the ground, or your vaginal fluids in the ground, And third is recognizing coincidence. Once you do those two things, there's going to be coincidences that's going to happen in your life, right? So let's say I'm thinking about cats, and out of nowhere, a cat run across my path. This is synchronization. I just made a cat appear according to how I was thinking. So if I'm thinking about cats and the cat run across my path, I just telepathically created that instance. This is manifestation. That was no coincidence that you was thinking of a cat and a cat run across your path. This is no coincidence. These coincidences are going to start to occur in your life. You're going to start seeing 1111 in coincidental times, You're going to start seeing the different types of numbers and things of that nature that are going to correspond with how you're thinking and things that are happening in your life. So once you identify those coincidences, you're taking yourself to a higher level, because that identification and coincidences lead to context, and there's context clues that these coincidences are making imminent, so that they could be picked up by your senses. This is because you gave 23 chromosomes to the universe. You gave 23 chromosomes to nature, right? You didn't just piss on nature. You didn't just shit on nature. You gave nature your most divine nectar, your most divine form of DNA, which holds phosphates, which holds the phosphates and the phosphorus in those 23 chromosomes. When these coincidences start to happen in your life, you're going to be able to correspond them as you think. So if I'm thinking about money and I'm walking and I see a wallet on the ground and I open it and I see money, then that's what's more of a blessing, that I found this money, or that I just synchronized with the universe and made this money appear with my thought process. That's more of a blessing to me than that money, right? So once you start to recognize coincidences, you're going to start to put numbers together. Numbers is going to run major in your life, times and dates, different types of locations. These numbers are going to be imminent throughout your life. Numbers are going to play a huge role. And anybody once you understand numbers, once you get numbers, the universe is going to teach you finances. If you have a spiritual system and you believe in any type of religious practice, and this spiritual system or this religious practice doesn't show you or teaches you wealth and finances, if it doesn't teach you financially, it doesn't teach you about the Federal Reserve, it doesn't teach you credit to debt ratios, and doesn't teach you about financial institutions, doesn't teach you about M1, M2, and M3 money, doesn't teach you how to invest into assets and earn capital, Doesn't teach you about stocks, bonds, amortized mortgages. You know, doesn't teach you about the demand for loans, the GDP, you know, the S&P 500, the S&P 200, the S&P 1200. If it doesn't teach you about your current situation's financial status, if it doesn't teach you finances, period, then it's not a valid spiritual system. And once you start to metaphysically grasp onto the numbers, once the numbers start to make themselves very apparent to you, you know, once you start to identify 1111 with different types of coincidences that happen in your life, once you do this, then those numbers are going to lead you into a financial status, right? They're going to lead you into wanting to learn things financially. How can I financially do things, right? One of the first things you're going to learn after you've done all three, open the pineal gland, panic your semen, and recognize the coincidence. Once you've done all three, then one of the first things you're going to learn about financially is real estate. That's the first thing you're going to learn. The first thing the universe is going to teach you. The first thing the universe is going to teach you is finances. How to handle finances. Going to teach you about currency. Going to teach you about money. You know. That's going to be the first thing the universe teach you. The next thing it's going to teach you is technology. What is technology? Biology. Biology is technology. Crystals. A lot of people don't even know that crystals in the cubic ladders literally manipulate atoms, and how atoms position themselves, and how that positioning correspond with how they're going to impact their environment. A lot of people gather crystals, you know, once they become spiritually awakened, or once they become metaphysically enhanced, you know, because crystals, one of the most prominent forms of crystals is copper. Copper itself is a crystal. You study the close perspective discovered by a scientist by the name of Linus Pauling. Once you study this close perspective, you will see how the cubic lattice, you will see why they call 10 p.m. p.m. Because atoms align up in either hecadecagons, octagons, hexagons. Atoms make these shapes. And these shapes, however these shapes sit, whatever perspective these shapes take, they're going to impact your reality, right? So this is why biology becomes the second science that the universe teaches you once you learn finances. If you have a spiritual system that don't teach you about your money, it doesn't teach you about the Federal Reserve, it doesn't teach you about gold, it doesn't teach you about value. If it doesn't teach you about yourself financially, it is not a valid spiritual system. Whatever you're serving, whatever's teaching you, is teaching you an incorrect way, and it should be seen as something like a demon, even though demons don't exist, you know. But once you've done these three things, once you open the pineal gland through the natural blue light of the sun, once you planted your semen into the ground, and once you recognize coincidence, your logic is going to catapult into a higher consciousness. You're going to start to think things that are 100%, 1,000,000% different from things that other people are thinking. 1,000,000% different. And they're going to seem far-fetched to you. But as you go through life and you interact or you encounter these coincidences guide you. They guide you when they take your mind into a higher consciousness. They take your mind into a spiritual revelation, something that's going to cause for you to never go back to what you once were. A lot of us become aliens. You know, we become aliens once we've done these three things, because our consciousness completely changed, you know. Your thoughts, your mind, your vibration completely change. A lot of people ask about these natal charts, these birth charts that they've calculated down to the science through the movement of the planets, the physical manifestation of the cosmos, the movement of the earth. A lot of people have created these charts, but they have not kept in mind that the universe is constantly moving. So these charts are constantly changing as a reaction to that constant movement. So when you base your natal chart off of 9 planets, and there's actually 10 planets, or there's actually only 8 planets left now, since Pluto is no longer a planet. Pluto, which was discovered in 1930, is no longer a planet. Now, what does that mean for your natal chart? That means that your natal chart has advanced. And this is why new ages have to be identified so that we can correspond them with the movement of the cosmos. Right? The movement of the cosmos is going to determine the demeanor of all of humanity, which is the benefactor of whether humanity progresses or not. And we've always been humanitarian people. That's a dominant genetic. That's an intelligent gene. If it not be selfish, if it does not involve humanity, then it's not something to be taken serious in your consciousness, your higher self, your conscious spirituality. And you can learn that by simply looking at the macrocosmic level. You look at macromolecules and you see how they come together and bond. You look at things like the vesicle Pisces and how atoms replicate and how molecules and cells replicate themselves in an instant. You look at this higher consciousness of all things, and it takes your mind into a higher plane, a higher self, a higher sense. Having this higher sense is going to be your first thoughts. Your first thoughts are your most purest thoughts. They're going to resonate with your consciousness the most. Because throughout your day you record information. Every 70 years, each cell inside of the memory gland is completely replaced. Every 7 years, every cell inside of the memory gland is completely replaced. But you can still, sure enough, remember things from 70 years ago. That's such an amazing feat itself, knowing that you can't remember things that you've done yesterday. No one on this planet could remember every single last thing that they did yesterday, the day before them, the day before today. You can't remember every single last thing, but you can remember something from 70 years ago. This is a contradiction. This is man. This is the progression of knowledge. Right? What's the divine superior structure of knowledge? The divine superior structure of knowledge is to know that you know nothing. And all things are to be learned. To learn all things. That is the very engine of the black melanated being. Is to learn all things. Even after you die, you are going to learn. As you transform, as your carbon atoms let off electrons and you start to decay. You're gonna be in the ground for 5,600 years scientifically. That's how long it takes for your bones and your body to completely decay. 5,600 years. You'll be in the ground for 5,600 to 6,000 years. Here on this earth, still decaying. Your atoms are still decaying. Your molecules are still ripping themselves apart. Your body is still breaking down. You know? After this happened, after this breakdown, this scientific erosion, this divine erosion happens to your body. After this divine erosion happens to your body, your thoughts continue to carry on. So, and that's because you are energy. Even though your body takes 5,600 years to leave this earth, your energy has already transformed and adapted to other environments. It has already advanced. Your energy is your consciousness. Your consciousness is your potential. The potential to do anything. That's what the consciousness is. The potential to create and do anything. You have the biological tools. You know, you have the philosophical tools. You have the educational tools. As a beautiful black melanoid god and goddess, you have this within yourself. A lot of people ask me, what is everlasting life? Everlasting life is the black woman swallowing sperm until she becomes impregnated. The consciousness of that baby is going to be a transference of a consciousness from one parent. The Bible teaches things of this nature. How Mary got pregnant as a virgin. She got pregnant orally. She got pregnant through her mouth. And this is because the phosphates, the phosphorus that's inside of the sperm cells have information that is very unique. Information that is 100% unique to the body. It's a unique found thing. The woman impregnates herself orally. You look at people like the Dalai Lama who rebirthed himself on this planet, and you see how he brought himself back to life after dying at 60 years old. He brought himself back to life at the age of 2 years old. This is because he understood the sperm cell. He understood the 23 chromosomes that's inside of the sperm cell. And he understood that the woman could replicate the sperm cell in her reproductive organs. She could become pregnant if she swallowed the sperm cell. Our ancestors understood this knowledge. As the woman swallows the sperm cell, over time, her body as the body replaces itself off of what you eat. A lot of people ask me, how can a sperm cell make itself through the fallopian tubes and all this through the uterus, and how can a sperm cell do that? But you have to keep in mind that you are what you eat. If you eat constant carrots, your cells is going to transform into the cells or the atoms or the molecules of that carrot. Your cells you're gonna become that carrot if you eat that carrot. If your woman ate your semen, the reason why you become that carrot is because every cell in your body replaces itself with what you nourish your body with. So if the woman nourished the body with semen, the reproductive cells are going to be replaced with semen cells, thus causing an impregnation. You know? And if a child is born this way, if a child is conceived this way, this child has a telepathic genetic structure, a allokinetic genetic structure to download the consciousness of their parent through breast milk. So the woman consumes the sperm and the male consumes breast milk. A woman could survive off of the sperm cell. Just imagine if there was just a man, a woman, no animals, no plants, no civilization, no nothing. How would they survive? They would survive by the woman drinking the sperm cells or drinking the sperm and the male drinking the breast milk. This is how they would survive off of one another. Activating the pineal gland causes you not to eat. A lot of people lose their appetites. The appetites curve, you know. Just dealing with a higher conscious self. But it's God Molecular here to spread the religion of Morphodie, which is the religion of no religion, here to dismantle and disassemble all religion by the year 2034. I thank you guys for tuning in. I come as Amen, reincarnated this new age, that of the 226th dynasty, was stemmed from King Solomon, who held a descendant by the name of Haile Selassie I, who occupied that of the 225th dynasty. 3 salutes. Ready? Go. And that is in tribute to Amen, as he was known as the Most High and the most logical being or deity at his time. I come as him reincarnated to usher in the new age of Aquarius, also known as the age of the 6, as we have transpired from the age of the Pisces, also known as the age of the 7. And that is as of August 21st, 2017, titled The Day of the Great American Eclipse. But I thank you guys for tuning in. It's God Molecular.